Okay, so if you look at this graphic, you can see we've got left hand, both hands, and right hand. Okay, so these are the three principal practicing forms that you can take. Okay, so you can work on your left hand, both together, coordination, or right hand, mainly picking. Okay, so on the far end of the spectrum, if we look at the diagram again, we've got pure legato, and at the end, we've got pure picking. So there's a number of little variations in between as you move from left hand through to both and into the right. And a lot of the songs that you hear and the things that you practice will incorporate somewhere along this line. Okay, so it makes sense if you're playing a scale and you're picking every note, you're going to be using both hands together. So that implies coordination. Okay, so there's certain exercises, certain songs you can play, really famous stuff that would really help you to develop that level of coordination. So let's go to the graphic and we'll deal with the first one, which is pure legato. What is pure legato? Well, legato means smooth, so it means mainly left hand work. The notes are going to be very smooth, they're all going to sound roughly the same attack. So the initial attack that you hear on the string when you pick a note, that kind of pinging sound from the pick, that's the attack. So with legato, most of that attack is removed and all the notes kind of flow similarly together. So it gives a smooth, audible transition between the notes. So when it comes to pure legato, you're not really using the pick at all. You may pick the string once just to start the whole thing off, but predominantly it's all left hand work. So it requires quite a bit of strength. You need stamina in your left hand, flexibility, you need to be able to stretch a lot of the time as well. There's a lot to it, but it's really predominantly all left hand. So when you're practicing the guitar and you're looking at left hand, or you want to build your left hand, consider doing pure legato exercises or songs or moments in songs, licks, things like that. So let's have a look at a few examples of pure legato. So no right hand, or if the right hand is being used at all, it's just to mute strings, keep everything quiet so the left hand can do all of the work. So that's pure legato. So what about if we start to incorporate the right hand a little bit and we want to sort of keep building the left hand, but we sort of want to do a little bit of picking as well? Well, you can do picked legato, which sounds counterintuitive after what we said about legato, which is pure left hand. But it kind of works and it kind of makes sense when you hear the sound of it. So what you're doing is you're using the pick to create a rhythm and like a cascading effect within the legato sound itself. So you're adding some attack, you're adding some accents to create a rhythm within the legato flow. So let's have a look at some examples of picked legato. Pick legato is also really good if you want to cycle short licks together that are predominantly left hand. It can create a good rhythmic pulse using the right hand just to keep it going, and predominantly only picking when you cross the strings. So we've been using our left hand's getting nice and warmed up. We've started to incorporate a little bit of our right hand. We're creating rhythms with our left-handed work now with the right hand. So the right hand's starting to kind of be like a springboard for the left hand. And it's good, we're starting to incorporate the two. So now we really want to be focused on both hands together. So if you're practicing and you want to learn coordination, scales are very good because you're picking at the same time that your left hand is moving, and the notes have to be even. So when your left hand moves, your right hand should be picking. So here's an example of a simple pick scale. The good thing about the pick scale is for every note that you play, there must be a pick, whether it's down or up. Usually people do alternate picking, so down, up, down, up. So this is a good coordination exercise, and of course always use a metronome to keep time. It will really help calibrate your inner tempo. The ability to be able to scale quickly is basically a combination of your left hand being strong and versatile and agile, your right hand being very good and dexterous, and the two working together. My advice with any of these things is to work out exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are. If your right hand is really, really strong and you're good at picking, you're good at dampening, things like that, but your solo work isn't so strong, start working on pure legato. See what it feels like to just use your left hand. And then start incorporating them, the left and right together, as you've seen in some of the examples where you can pick some of the left-handed stuff. Or you can use the left hand just to assist your right. Okay, so moving on to more right-handed things now. We've done the pure legato, we've picked some of the legato and done a few things, a few licks, a few fast cycled things. We've done some scales and things of that nature. So now we need to start considering more right-hand dominant exercises, techniques and riffs, licks, things like that. So sweep picking is one that a lot of people try and do. It's quite a difficult technique, and whether you're doing arpeggios or whatever it is you're sweeping, you're predominantly sweeping the pick through the guitar and then pulling it back through this way. So it's a sweep of the pick, you're not picking anything. So this is predominantly a right-handed technique. But the interesting thing about sweep picking is it does involve a huge amount of coordination, even though it's starting to move towards the right hand a little bit. And that's because the left hand has to move in exactly the right time with the right hand, or it falls apart very, very quickly. Let's look at an example of a simple sweep. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of coordination needed there, and that was not a big, huge, fast moving sweep. It was pretty slow moving and all the rest of it, but in order to get it even slightly clean, you have to do it very, very, very precisely. And I would strongly advise anybody who's not at least upper intermediate to advanced to just kind of leave sweeping alone until it's needed, because it does require a lot of work. But it is a good example of how it's starting to move towards the right hand a little bit, but you still need that coordination. So as you can imagine, trying to even begin sweeping with no coordination at all is absolutely impossible almost. So you need that fundamental coordination work done. Okay, so moving on to chords now. Chords are interesting because although they do use the left hand, because you have to change shape and sometimes you can do little flourishes within the chords as well, it is predominantly a right-handed thing, either through strumming or for arpeggiating the notes or playing the notes of the chord separately. Arpeggios are interesting because they fit throughout the whole plethora of the different practicing that you can do, because you can do them pure legato, you can kind of hold the neck and do arpeggios this way. You can pick through arpeggios in a sequence. That's something that I do. You can also sweep arpeggios, of course, as you just saw, and other things. So arpeggios are interesting, but when you're playing chords, I would advise anybody who just strums chords usually to think about arpeggiating them. Here's an example of the difference between a strum chord and an arpeggiated chord. Yeah, you can clearly hear a difference with how the chords are presented to the listener. One is obviously just strummed with the right hand, and the other is arpeggiated, picking through each of the notes of the chord separately to create a rhythm or style or something, just to give it a different way of listening to it. And this is something that I strongly urge you to do. So when you're practicing chords, try arpeggiating them. And if you're used to only arpeggiating chords and really sort of working the right hand, try strumming. And getting a good feel in the wrist for how strumming sounds, even on the electric, it can be useful to you. And finally, we move all the way through right to the very end, and we've got pure picking. And when I say pure picking, I mean similar to the legato. Your left hand is basically just sitting there doing nothing, or it's not even on the guitar neck itself. And this is completely for your right hand. Here's an example of pure picking where the left hand is sitting on the guitar and basically doing nothing. Here's an example of your left hand not even being on the neck, and you can still work your right hand. So in summary then, when you're practicing the guitar, there's left hand, right hand, or both hands together. And you should really, really think about these things with the things that you play, because learning the guitar is kind of like learning a language. You're building up a vocabulary of things that you can do. And if you have a look at that vocabulary that you have right now, you'll probably find that there's some parts of it that are lacking, whether it's left hand, right hand, or coordination and using the two together. So have a think about that when you're practicing and decide for yourself, well, I think I'm strong with my right hand, but I really should work on my left, or vice versa. Or, you know what, every time I pick scales or I try and do these certain licks, they just fall apart. I just can't pick and work the left hand at the same time. Build your coordination. Start slow, set the metronome slow, keep it on the beat, keep it tight, and it will develop. So if you found this information useful, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more. And also please comment. I'd love to hear about your practicing routines that you have yourself. And if anybody is looking for tuition or more help and advice, you can contact us at Harmonix. The links will be in the description box below. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.